Okay, welcome to the Rancher Book, folks. Been on a little bit of a hiatus dealing with some technical difficulties, internet service, getting some different equipment and that sort of thing. And pretty soon I'll have it straightened out and we'll be back into doing some daily vids here for you guys. But in the meantime, we're going to take a look at the Divine Perfection Plans on page 85. This is under Eternal Son and the Universe. And remember, when we're dealing with the Trinity here, we have the Eternal Son, the Father, and the Infinite Spirit. That is the least amount, the most efficient amount of beings, personalities required to have a community, therefore perfect. Everything is perfect in the universe. It's only in this relative time-space reality that we have to deal with relative imperfections. But at any given moment, because we are indwelt by a divine fragment of the eternal Godhead, we can simply transcend those relative imperfections and say, it's only temporary. I'm an eternal being. I've made that choice. I've had that change of heart to follow divinity and deity. So don't get caught up, that's similar with Christianity, so I'm therefore going to reject the Trinity concept. Remember, we're having an open mind. A man or woman, a wise man or woman, lives by what truth they can find today, ready to call it a falsehood tomorrow. That way we're wholly ready to progress here. So don't just assume that just because man's religion said something, it has to be false, a falsehood. Because remember, that's perfection. Having one would just be a monopoly, and having two, you'd only be back and forth. I mean, it's great for a relationship and a man-woman relationship, child rearing, that sort of thing. But when it comes to having a perfect trinity, you're having a community at that point, and that trinity can function in ways that are very diverse. So let's look at that. The Divine Perfection Plans. We're looking at the Eternal Son today. So please like and subscribe. And it all has to fit. Keep that in mind. If something is even slightly off, nothing that is slightly off will hold up. There's no philosophy in the universe that could possibly hold up, that somebody can concoct in their mind. And you're free to do that. We're free to go on all these mental head trips that we want to and concoct any sort of philosophy that we want, but they're going to be subject to some sort of breakdown when approached with various questions for that, unless it's the perfect philosophy, a spiritual philosophy, a philosophy more fundamental than the human mind that stems from God. That will have no holes in it whatsoever. Okay, let's look at this. The Divine Perfection Plan. The Eternal Son, an everlasting liaison with the Father, in the successful prosecution of the divine plan of progress, folks. That's where we're on. Remember, that's the watchword in the universe. Not stagnation, not redo, rehash, reincarnate. Progressing. The universal plan for the creation, evolution, ascension, and perfection of will creatures. And in divine faithfulness, the Son is the eternal equal of the Father. The Father and his Son are as one in the formulation of the prosecution of this gigantic attainment plan for advancing the material beings of time to the perfection of eternity. So that's us being advanced, the gigantic plan. This project for the spiritual elevation of the ascendant souls of space is a joint creation of the Father and the Son, and they are, with the cooperation of the Infinite Spirit, the third person, engaged in associative execution of their divine purpose. Now they say the first person of deity, they're not saying the first human of deity. Person, it doesn't mean human. It means personality, which forever offsets this from something that's a non-personal, a purely non-personal spiritual view, something like Buddhism or something like that, which is, there's people that, can change it and whatever, and that's fine, and they should, but for the most part, Buddhism is looked at as not having a personal God. It's not monotheistic like this is. Even though there's three, they're combined into one. So that's what sets Buddhism off from it. Somebody was arguing with, well, they were arguing, I wasn't arguing, but they were trying to tell me that, oh, Buddhism is more intricate than that. You can have your cake and eat it too. Sure, that's great. And in fact, the Urantia book has its cake and eats it too, because they say that there is non-personal aspects of deity, and they call them divinity. Okay, there's these unqualified absolute and that sort of thing, because God encompasses everything. So when you're trying to break it off and say, all right, well, I'm just going to be a Buddhism, I'm just going to focus on the non-personal aspects of God, you're missing out on the personal. And if you're just going to say, well, I'm just going to be a Christian person and only focus on the personality of God, you're missing out on this whole omnipresent sort of understanding that Buddhism has. Okay, we go over that a lot, but I still had comments about it and that sort of stuff. So you can argue for whatever type of version of this that you want, and that's fine, but just for the sake of understanding things, man's mainstream religion of Buddhism doesn't have these persons in it, okay? You can put them in, but then when you do, you're creating your new Buddhism, which is great, and you should, and that's, you're going to be more replete when you do, but it's not what mainstream Buddhism is. That's not the mainstream understanding, so there's no argument for that. It's just like, this is, all right, a big tangent, but what's his name? Descartes said that there's certain axioms in the universe, like a square has four sides because we define a square as four sides. You can't go in and then start to argue and say that a square has five sides. You can, but then you're creating this whole new different thing, this new different axiom. Same thing goes with Buddhism. If you want to go in and say, well, in certain sects they do believe that there's a God and so forth, well, that's great, you're fine, but then you're not really talking about, then you're talking about monotheism again, or some sort of polytheism again, or something like that, okay? That's the term. The term is monotheism, because they term these as one. They don't call this, whatever, all right. This divine plan of perfection attainment embraces three unique, though marvelously correlated enterprises of universal adventure. The plan of progressive attainment. This is the Universal Father's plan of evolutionary ascension, a program unreservedly accepted by the Eternal Son when he concurred in the Father's proposal. Let us make mortal creatures in our own image. So I thought there was only one quote from God in this book, but here's another one. Let us make mortal creatures in our own image. Wow, so fundamental, folks. You're getting it. That's the words of God right there. This provision for upstepping the creatures of time involves the Father's bestowal of the thought adjuster and the endowing of material creatures with the prerogatives of personality. Thought adjuster, remember, that's the non-personal entity. See, we're even indwelt by a non-personal entity. Your fragment of the Godhead, in fact, is not personal. You're the personality. You two are to team up and create this ultimate version of yourself. You could call that your higher self. It's tapped into God and sort of thing. All right, and your personality, you endowed with the prerogatives of choice. The bestowal plan. The next universal plan is the great Father Revelation enterprise of the Eternal Son and his coordinate sons. This is the proposal of the Eternal Son and consists of his bestowal of the sons of God upon the evolutionary creations, there to personalize and factualize and incarnate and make real the love of the Father and the mercy of the Son to the creatures of all universes. So this is this bestowing of beings that are more advanced than us. Our Jesus of Nazareth was one of them. And they are able to then, be a bridge from our personality to the divine personality, so we can see, oh, wow, look at how this person interacted. And there's like 700 pages in this book, how he dealt with his finances. He was extremely good about he was a perfect specimen of self-control, they say. So that's how he dealt with his anger. There's this kind of, I don't even know if it's New Age, but there's this sort of thing like we want to embrace our anger and that sort of stuff. Well, that's great, but that can't be a universal. I'd say that's great. Maybe somebody needs to do that because they're being too reserved and they need to speak their mind. So I think I see where that comes from, where people say, you know, you got to stand up for yourself. You have to be able to express your boundaries, and that's good. But they turn it into like, let's celebrate anger. Let's celebrate our anger now. But if you make that a universal philosophy, you're gonna have people celebrating their anger and punching people in the face, doing road rage and feeling great about it. You have to be able to come up with ways to thread these needles where you say you should stand up for your boundaries. And that's just you expressing yourself, but you don't do it in an angry way. Jesus wasn't a pushover type of person. He was extremely like, this is the way, but he didn't have to get angry about it. Okay? So that's perfect. That's a perfect example of that love of the Father and the mercy of the Son. Because when you have that and you understand that, then you can transcend those lower human natures and things. All right? But you're not just some passive pushover either. Again, proportion, balance, all that. Inherent in the bestowal plan and the provisional feature of this ministration of love, the Paradise Son acts as rehabilitators of that which misguided creature will has placed in spiritual jeopardy. Extremely important quote in this book. They gave us the keys to the Mercedes, basically, and we're about to ram it into a tree. Spiritual jeopardy. That's not just material jeopardy. Look at how serious that is, folks. Spiritual jeopardy. That's how much free will we have. We're allowed to ram this Mercedes into the tree. But luckily for these ministers, they're not going to let it happen. Or they're going to rehabilitate it once it does, after it has, okay? Whenever and wherever there occurs a delay in the functioning of the attainment plan, now individually and collectively we're dealing with here, folks, always, okay? Collectively, rebellion. Individually, what am I doing to do rebellion? Perchance, should mar or complicate this enterprise, then do the emergency provisions of the bestowal plan become active forthwith. So we have our Melchizedek who came in, Jesus of Nazareth. Well, that wasn't really an emergency, but on this planet it was because there was a rebellion. But on a normal world, that would just simply be a bestowal. They're not always emergencies that they come in. But the Paradise Sons stand pledged and ready to function as retrievers to go into the very realms of rebellion and there restore the spiritual status of the spheres. And such a heroic service of coordinate Creator Son did perform on Urantia in connection with his experiential bestowal career of sovereignty acquirement. It's not always a retrieval there, but it was here for ours, and he certainly did succeed. Melchizedek succeeded as well. But they didn't, and even Jesus said, I'm not here to be the Prince of Peace, or you know, you're not going to see just this world change in utopia after my life. And even now to this day, the book says that the world is in transition, and it could take 1,000 years before it settles down. So let's just ride these waves. You're going to get little bits and glimpses of pieces, no matter who the president is, no matter what policy. They're going to do a lot of harm because of their own human flaws and weaknesses, and that's who we decide to put in, you know, to these offices. But they're also going to do more so good. It's gearing towards this divinity. We have to trust in this plan of perfection and let the time thing not be our concern. And so that way we don't have to get too riled up if we don't like the person in office, because a certain part of their plan is going to be towards the finalization of the, you know, the era of enlightened life. We're gearing towards that. The plan of mercy ministry. When the attainment plan, just have faith and trust and belief and all that. When the attainment plan, not in the men, but maybe in their guiding spirit, or the way that the seraphim are going to, you know, manipulate what they can control, not the people's free wills, but maybe various circumstances to allow certain people to meet, and then they're going to make a change and that sort of stuff. So we're not having faith in this person's human decisions. Jeez, I would never put my faith in, you know, I could barely put my faith in my own. But we're putting faith in deity and divinity here, folks. In connection with experience. And when I do that, now I can really have faith in that. I have had a changed heart, and I could really say to somebody, you can trust me. I'm not going to, you know, I might not be perfect, but there's a lot that I've attained that I'm not going to like do these egregious things, or get angry and get violent and physical and that sort of stuff. I'm beyond those sort of things, and I can truly trust in that. But that is because of my divinity, which we all have. The plan of mercy ministry, when the attainment plan and the bestowal plan had been formulated and proclaimed, alone and of himself, the infinite spirit projected and put in operation. See, they always work in various combinations of the three. Now this is the third person is working on his own. Put in the operation the tremendous and universal enterprise of mercy ministry. This is the service so essential to the practical and effective operation of both the attainment and the bestowal undertakings, and the spiritual personalities of the third source and center all partake of the spirit of mercy ministry, which is so much a part of this nature of the third person of deity. That's our local universe mother creative spirit, the cohort of the eternal or of the creative son here, not only in creation but also in administration. See, you're having now, they have their own league of personalities that they're the parent of, this third person, and the son has his own personalities that he's the direct creator parent of. So you're getting this super replete thing. And what else would you expect? I mean, it's a big complex universe out there, but we could take it one step at a time, moment by moment, and we'll attain it all and experience it all. Which is so much part of the nature of the, not only in creation but also in administration. The infinite spirit functions truly and literally as the conjoint executive of the Father and the Son. All right. The eternal Son is the personal trustee, the divine custodian of the Father's universal plan of creature ascension. Having promulgated the universal mandate, "Be you perfect even as I am perfect." That's the other quote in the book from God directly. So I know of only two, but maybe if somebody knows of another one, they can let me know. The Father entrusted the execution of this tremendous undertaking to the eternal Son. And the eternal Son shares the fostering of this supernal enterprise with his divine coordinate, the infinite Spirit. Thus do the deities effectively cooperate in the work of creation, control, evolution, revelation. See, revelation is a huge concept in the universe, and that's why we can know that this book is a reality. And again, you have to approach that from a belief level first. But once you do, and once you take that leap of faith, then you can say, okay, so you can hang your hat on revelation, and you'll know it when you see it. When it's super, if you read this book, folks, and you compare this to any other thing, you're going to say, I see, this is what a revelation is. I don't care if it's your, what are they called? Celestial prophecies, your Western man's scriptures, your Buddhist, Tibetan Book of the Dead. Don't even try. I mean, you can do it and have fun and go for it and that sort of thing. People tell me like, oh, check out this video on YouTube and things, or this great interview I saw. It's revelation also can be auto revelation to yourself, as in you can tap into these things, folks. I've tapped into it, like I said, once or twice. Once I would consider maybe even more of a metaphysical thing. I think that you could even consider that metaphysical, or the Kundalini awakening that I experienced, which was completely profound. But it didn't even, I wouldn't even say that it went to the level of the spirituality as the second one, where I was literally connecting with God for a 10-second experience. So I know that there's a reality to this, but I had to, really go forward and earn that through starting off as a faith, but then really trying to have that mind of perfect poise and that body of clean habits. And that really was an auto revelation that I had. The first one, like I said, you can mistake that even as metaphysical experience, because I wasn't guaranteed that there was a God after having it. Was more of that consciousness expansion type of thing that they talk about in the East, and that's why they call it Kundalini awakening. And they say that your consciousness dispersed. Very advanced, very, very profound, very blissful experience. Again, only lasted 10 seconds. And I had to be extremely regimented about meditation and that sort of stuff. And it was worth it. Totally shattered my world. But it was child's play, really, compared to the spiritual revelation that I had in the second experience. Which, when I came away from the second experience, I can now guarantee that there's a God to anybody who asks. It's just a reality in the universe. Whereas the first one, I came away and I said, wow, there's more to reality than we could possibly imagine. But I couldn't say, I can promise you there's a God. The second one, I could say, I definitely can promise you that there's a God. And that's not an individual experience. It's hard to explain that you can have an experience which transcends your own individuality. A revelation, folks, a revelation. That's not subject to your own perception. And people say, well, everything's subject to your own perception. No, 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 no. When you have it, you'll see. You'll see. You'll just have to experience it on your own, folks, and say, I had an experience beyond, without a shadow of doubt, beyond my own perception. And then you'll know it's a revelation. The first one, I wouldn't say I necessarily know that was a revelation, in fact, I would say I don't think it was. Like I said, I could call it a metaphysical experience. Profound and real and available to us and worth experiencing and everything like that. But I wouldn't call that an auto-revelation. Ministration, and if required, in restoration and rehabilitation. They got it all covered there, folks, so we're in good hands here. Yeah, hope you enjoyed the video there, and make sure you check out the Urantia book, because remember, here, I'll zoom out a little bit. That was just this tiny little leaf in this book, folks. That's how you know it's a revelation. All right, thanks again. Please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.